Chris Compton. Hi Chris, I just finished watching Q&A number 129 and heard you say how much you loved movies. I recently watched one of my favorites, V for Vendetta, and I noticed a direct correlation between the movie and what people like you, Leah, Mike, Aaron, and everyone else that tells their stories to whoever will listen. It is the point in the movie where Evie finds the letter in the rat hole of her cell, and it turns out to be the life story of another prisoner she has never met, but it gives her the strength to carry on and do what is necessary. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, as it is a very powerful bit of cinema to me personally, but I also think that it portrays the love and hope that you and all the others that put their stories out there have for those still trapped by the cult. In essence, you are pushing letters into the crack in the cell wall where they are waiting to be found by that next person desperate to break free. Well, let's talk about this. This is a really interesting and great question and point to bring up, and thank you for that. I love V for Vendetta. I always have. And I've always thought that it had a direct relationship, in the anti-authoritarian dictatorial message, very George Orwell 1984 type message, was very special, very necessary for every generation to hear, and especially the current one. I know we're not, here in the United States, we're not living in any kind of authoritarian dictatorship. I'm not that far gone. But I see signs and indicators of it around, and I think you'd have to be a fool not to. So in all aspects of life, on all sides, on the left and the right, politically too, okay, just so everybody doesn't get all their panties in a wad on this about, oh, Chris is off on a liberal tangent again. I see it everywhere. I see it on all sides. And the message of my channel here and of the videos that I've made is not just a Scientology one, but this question, of course, deals with that, and let's go ahead and dive in on that one. When I first started doing my channel, I had the idea of trying to reach people who were still in. After about a year, I realized that that wasn't going to really bear a lot of fruit that I was going to at least see or hear about. If I was reaching people who were in, then that was great. But I started realizing that there was a broader need for an anti-totalitarian message to the world at large. And so I started, trying to tailor the message more in that direction and talking to those who have never been in Scientology and never been part of it. And trying to talk about both Scientology and other destructive cults and the traits and characteristics of them and what they're all about as a warning to, an education and a warning to not get involved in any such group. And I thought education about Scientology might help in, in accomplishing that purpose. And I thought that reaching out to other destructive cult members, former members from other groups, interviewing them, talking with them, contrasting and comparing Scientology to them might also help broaden the view of what I'm trying to accomplish here. And so that's what I've, proceeded to do. And I never really thought about it in such poetic terms as you put it in the question here. I never really thought about it in a V for Vendetta way, because I don't really look at myself that heroically. But obviously the comparisons are there to be made. Scientology is dictatorial. It is authoritarian. I did live under that system. And it was not fun. It was not a good experience. And it's not something that I would like to see anybody else have to live through or live under. So yeah, I would definitely draw parallels between the messages that I've been leaving here in my videos for the last few years and the message that Evie got in her cell about how, choosing to live with one's in, the messages of V for Vendetta, there are so many themes to it. And integrity, right? Living with, being true to yourself, even if you are threatened with death or horrible consequences for being true to yourself, is very much a theme. And I feel that that's a theme that certainly is runs through those who have escaped from destructive cults is they find that they reached a point, you know, people can and maybe should be critical of those who are part of these destructive cults and come to realize that they, through something that happens to them, usually personal, the destructive cult member, you know, wakes up, finds out that something isn't right with this group, or reaches a tipping point, reaches a breaking point, and exits, right? And then some of us, you know, speak out about it. And you can look at those people critically as, well, you know, it had to affect them personally before they would get out. How come they couldn't see otherwise? Well, I invite any of you to look at, you know, the various things that you favor or are, you know, biased towards in your life and ask yourself how critical you are of those things, right? I mean, you know, let's just go back and forth on that a little bit. It's easy to be critical of somebody. It's easy to be critical of ourselves in hindsight for what we didn't see before and now we can see. But there's a point also of to be validated about people who escape from these cults, which is that they reached a point where they had to make a choice about being true to themselves or being, you know, compromising their integrity or their sense of honor or self, or who they are, or their identity, right? And it's hard in a destructive cult because your identity is reshaped while you're in that cult. It is reformed into the personality and ideals of the cult leader. And they're no longer, you know, you are to that degree that you accept that and take that into yourself and change yourself. You are no longer you. So it's quite a thing to reach that, to hit a point where you are, you know, you're at a crossroads. You have to decide what you're going to do. And I bring this up because, like, for example, for those who have seen the movie, this story that Evie is told is in this little, with these notes in the cell, is one of a woman who loved another woman, and the state came down on her and tortured her and made her life hell and eventually killed her because of her beliefs, her desires, who she chose to love. And that was her choice. She could have recanted. She could have said, no, okay, I'll change my mind, you know, gone along with the flow, as so many of us do in so many circumstances in life. And she said, no, this is a point that I'm not going to do that anymore, or I'm not going to do that at all. And that's the point we reach, you know, in Scientology when we escape from it. And I think I almost, you know, think it requires that kind of test in order to hit that point where you have to question what's going on. I mean, what does that mean? You question what's going on. Well, it means that something happened to you that tests your own sense of self and integrity. So anyway, point made on that. And I think that that is a good parallel. So I see now that having come out of that and through that, I'm perfectly happy to draw a parallel or comparison between what I'm doing on my channel and leaving these notes out there for anyone to see, part of, you know, anyone of any group at any time, hopefully for, you know, ever. I mean, who knows how long the internet and YouTube are going to last and how long my channel will be around, but certainly, you know, hopefully, I hope for many, many years to come. And I hope that these messages that I've been leaving here in the way of my videos do reach people, maybe that I can't even predict right now will need them, both with critical thinking and with the lessons of, you know, Scientology and coming out of that. And, you know, and if that happens and this work ends up being more broadly applicable than how I see it right now, well, damn, that would just be awesome. So, you know, I hadn't really thought about it a whole lot. Your question obviously got my wheels turning here, and I hope that this is a good, these thoughts are of some use to, you know, you, Chris, who asked the question, and others who are watching. So there you go.